We're live. Oh, hi. I'm the something. I forgot
Hello,
what I
this is
was
Hot
today.
Blue.
And I'm not gone anymore.
Yay, everybody. SO's back. Hooray.
Yay!
Yeah.
I mean, there would be some actual emotion in here. It's just everybody's a spurg.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We have a very diverse group of people where literally everybody is autistic. except possibly SO. Possibly.
But that's not diversity though. If everybody's the same, it's
Doesn't
the
matter.
opposite.
I mean, you can get a whole bunch of
That's
black,
diversity
obese,
in the modern definition. Don't you know, you bigot?
if everybody in the whole world is a black, obese, Muslim, trans woman, then that's diversity. Ignore the fact that it's a complete monoculture. Just ignore
Don't
that.
you forget that they also have to be atheist Muslims.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Can't forget about that.
It's you gotta optimize diversity here. It's not enough to simply be diverse. You have to transcend diversity.
Is that actually a thing though? Like I know that Godfrey Elfwick guy who got fucking banned who got purged. He got purged from Twitter, but yeah, I remember he identified as that. But are there people unironically doing that?
I think there are.
Yeah, I've heard of some kind of stupid thing like that. I don't know. I can't remember who made it or where it was from, but it was like sort of this big giant buck of ridiculousness. Yeah. Anyways, topics.
Let's see.
Well,
Oh,
we
that's how you
have
go.
Donald Trump claiming that Google searches are rigged, and CNN, being the fake news source that they are, claimed that there is absolutely no rigging in Google searches.
That sounds like fun.
I mean, I don't even know what I need to say about that one. That's just objectively wrong, and it's been demonstrated to be wrong for years now. You get any other search engine, DuckDuckGo, Brave, Bing, and the suggested search results, if you type in certain keywords, are drastically different from Google.
I believe one example is like British family. You type that in Google, and it's all diversity.
Yeah, and it's not it's not just Trump related stuff. It's any number of political topics or keywords.
Look up,
If you type them in Google, you'll get different search results and you'll get different keywords.
Like you look up gun stuff and you get a bunch of gun control nonsense.
Yeah.
Like
I remember when I was doing research for some of my earlier videos and I'd be looking up articles, I was dumb enough to be using Google, and I had to really dig to find information that wasn't just like complete socialist drivel.
Yeah, it's crazy. I look up any topic.
Oh, look at this.
What?
Especially
Right on.
ones where the establishment have a lot riding on it, like especially economic topics. Have you ever tried to research economics through Google, or like the financial history of corporatist practices between the government and business? You will not find anything.
You can't find it. What were they? Did they honestly believe that nobody would ever notice this? I mean, the vast majority don't, because
well, CNN does, because they think we're fucking stupid.
Well, CNN thinks everybody to the right of Che Guevara's knuckle-dragging imbecile. So
no, they think their own fans are stupid because they think that the people that are going to read an article like that are going to read their articles are going to look at an article like that and think, oh, yeah, Google isn't censoring people. Trump is just he just doesn't like the news. It's kind of it's reminiscent of when Trump calls out the media for being biased, and like you got to understand, I am no one here is that big of a Trump fan. Trump cost me my
No.
fucking Trump cost me my fucking job.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is absolutely 100% right when saying that the media is biased. That's essentially just an uncontroversial fact. We have
That's an axiom.
we have research that demonstrates that it's true. It's like 90 something percent very far left according to Pew Research.
Also,
So
Riley wants in.
All right.
all right.
Yeah. Let's send him a link.
But yeah, nobody here is really saying Trump's right. It's just he happens to be right on this one thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I recall correctly, it's something like of all campaign donations during the 2016 election cycle, it was like 98% went to Clinton, and the
Yep.
rest just went to Trump. And you got some media personalities like Rosie O'Donnell who were so desperate to donate to Hillary Clinton that she created 5 identities just to circumvent campaign law.
Bernie's #1 campaign contributor was Alphabet Inc.
Oh.
Yeah, let's not forget about that.
Oh no, that's different. You see, he donated to the right candidate, so it's all good. That's all fine. Never mind
Follow
the
the
fact that
money, except for when it comes to Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders is so anti-establishment.
definitely.
Yep.
Uh-oh,
Riley, we
buddy,
can
you just revealed your face.
yeah, pretty much.
Oh no.
Yeah. You're still working on the yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Yay.
Yee. Don't want
Yeah,
my scary face online.
that is precisely why my webcam, regardless, is always facing the wall.
That's why
That's why I don't have a webcam.
this is what I'm gonna turn on my camera so you guys can see what it sees. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. You see this?
Yeah, that's what my camera sees. I've got some
Although
I've
I
got
actually
wall
do have
herpes.
planned to have sort of a face rig for Hoplu, because that'd be fun.
Yeah, that might work.
Also, now Atomic Camp wants in. Let me send him a link.
Go ahead. I was actually
All
trying to get him
right.
in too. Yeah, now it's a party.
Yeah. What you were saying, yeah, Google search is
Yeah,
very
this-
biased.
This was 3 people sitting here shitting on Google, but yeah, now we got 5 people in here shitting on Google. This is gonna be much better.
You don't suppose anyone is listening to this conversation?
Let me check it. Let me check my phone here. 16
We're a
people
few.
right now.
Ah,
everybody.
yes.
Hello.
At least it's not 17.
It was 17.
Damn
But
it.
anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
fuck Google and fuck CNN for thinking that all of us and their audience are so stupid that they would actually buy something like that.
Well, CNN's audience
mean-
is that stupid.
But the thing is, you get all these government airports and you get all these businesses who put on CNN, like these restaurants. I walk into restaurants all the time and CNN's playing on the TV. It makes you wonder how many of their viewers are actually viewers. Like they didn't like they're not just businesses or the government artificially inflating their figures.
Yeah,
Well,
I actually
the
remember.
airport
That's a
is
very
paid.
good point.
I remember
The airports
something.
get paid for CNN to be on. That's a fact. If airports get paid to have CNN posted on the airport.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I remember actually Mike Cernovich talking about this when he was trying to promote one of his books. He went on to CNN or NBC or some other mainstream media, a place like he got prime time, like tens of millions of people would be watching. Didn't affect book sales whatsoever. Went on to Stefan Molyneux's show, book sales skyrocketed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that all the viewers are fake, or at least a large majority of them are.
I think
Yeah.
I think you got 3 kinds of CNN viewers. You got absolute abject morons who pay attention to the dribble. Now this represents like the tiny minority of viewers. Another group are people who just have it on their TV as background noise. And you have a third group, which is the airports, the restaurants, where it's on and they're paid to be on, but nobody's actually watching.
Yep.
So it kind of falls into the background noise category. Then again, like has anyone ever been to an airport and actually heard what they play on the TVs?
No, actually.
No.
There's
It's all
just too much
muted.
noise floating around.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you're not hearing what the anchors are saying, which I guess is merciful.
But yeah, another thing that CNN does that it pisses me off probably the most out of anything they do is when anytime somebody criticizes the media, anytime somebody big, they say, criticize CNN or one of these media outlets, they say it's an attack on the press. Oh, shut the fuck up. No, it is not. Criticizing the media is not the same thing as saying that the media shouldn't be free to talk about something. And I think that should go without saying, but that's how they approach a lot of topics.
Oh, if they really supported free press, what they would do is they would start speaking out against these stupid licenses that the government requires these media companies to have and artificially restricts the supply of media companies on broadcast television.
They would stop accepting subsidies from the government. That's another thing they would start doing.
Oh, and another thing,
sever the ties with the officials too.
They would also what they would also do is demand that the airwaves be privately owned.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that's something interesting that I was thinking about the other day. Is have you noticed how Trump and this government, it's essentially led by Republicans, yet CNN and MSNBC, all these big leftist corporations, which are essentially monopolizing information and are currently causing people to start calling for regulation and nationalization of the press. They're still being subsidized by the government. Do you find that it's a little bit
almost
suspect?
as if the two parties are the same?
Well, no, it made me start thinking, what if, it seems like it's indeed possible that this entire narrative, they could both be on the same side of this, working with each other, and this could simply be a false flag like scenario.
I see where this is going.
Where the government is funding
no secret
these...
that the Democrat Party and the Republican Party work together quite a bit. Like, the Republicans don't touch the welfare state, the Democrats won't touch the warfare state, even though the both of them believe in both.
I think what
that's
it is,
just well known.
I think where ESO is going with this is that the media is acting as ridiculous and biased as possible.
On the media's part, my bad.
Yeah.
Yes, they're acting biased.
They're trying to be nationalized.
Yeah, they're trying to be nationalized, and the government wants them to be nationalized so that they can be the only source of information.
Well, I'm thinking.
I mean, who doesn't want to be nationalized? That's a sort of assured source of income, and you're pretty much free from competition. It has no effect on you whatsoever.
Yeah, that's my point.
Bunny, you were saying something?
I think the reason why the media does what they do, the mind-numbing stories they post, is if you keep people dumb worrying about stupid things, they're not going to actually look at the real important issues. Let's report Trump said something mean. Then everyone can worry about that instead of this bill they're trying to pass. It's going to take away more freedom.
Pretty much.
Yep.
That's a very vanilla analysis of the media at this point. But yeah, I was thinking about that, and I realized I'm beginning to think that this is just a false flag on the state's part. Both the media and the state seek to benefit from this. The media seeks to benefit from being nationalized because they would never go out of business at that point. But the government seeks to benefit from nationalizing the media because they would be because the media would basically be a propaganda outlet for the government. Now, to an extent, this is already what's happening with things like Operation Mockingbird and the fact that these large media corporations are subsidized to begin with, but as is, there still are independent actors like us who don't take any orders or don't follow anything that the state says and don't take subsidies and actually report on information and opinions like this.
And that's why they're retaliating with things like, say, just lying about us in front to advertisers, causing the quote-unquote apocalypse. But
my point is that's why I think the state is doing this. They want to stop people from like us from having streams like this and actually able to have an audience, which is why it pisses me off even more that CNN claims that a criticism against them is an attack on the free press. They are an attack on the free press.
Their very existence is an abomination to liberty, and they have the gall to somehow claim themselves a champion of it. Honestly, at this point, if the government did go out and decide to ban CNN because screw free speech, screw free press, I wouldn't feel bad at all.
yeah,
But you can wish all you want. But you said you can wish all you want, but all news stations fund both parties. Fox gave money to both liberals and the Republicans. CNN gave money to the Republicans and the Democrats. They ain't ever going to ban them. They want them around. They want them around. They don't want independent press at all.
That's another interesting point.
They're a threat to their power. We ourselves are a threat to their power, which is why you have, for example, and I saw this when I was conservative. You have all sorts of neocons like John McCain, rest in peace, John McCain's brain tumor, that would just pretend to try to be the media's friend, try to be Democrats' friend. But when it came to those people who wanted small government, oh, those Tea Party hobbits, they had to be stopped. It's everything, like people, it always baffles me now. Like I used to wonder what it is that motivated the Democrat Party or just statists in general. But everything that they do makes complete and total sense when you realize that it's all about power. And the ends justify the means.
Yeah, a lot of people point out the financial aspect of it, but it's not really about finances. The inclusion of money into this is purely incidental. It's because we have a market-based society, but if you look at centrally planned economies, they follow the exact same trends.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, also, by the way, let's move on to the next topic.
Yes,
sure,
we have like
good.
4 of them today.
Oh yeah.
A story uncovered by NPR. Don't click away. Actually, they actually did some journalism for once. Anyway, so that figure that the government has been putting out, the CDC, I think, about 235 reported mass shootings last year. Well, NPR found that only 11 of these were actually shootings, and out of that 11, 6 of them weren't even mass shootings. They were just shooting somewhere on the street where the school happened to be located, which wasn't even related to the school or something like that. That's something that they actually consider to be a mass shooting.
Just to put this in perspective of the kinds of
statistics. Oh my goodness, my entire worldview has been shattered.
Speaking of which, just to put this in perspective, this is the kind of chicanery with statistics that you saw with the example of the guy who committed who committed suicide in a parking lot at night was counted as a mass shooting. That's that kind of nonsense.
That's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just a bit more we know that the media, when it comes to school shootings, they're just completely so far gone. But now we have proof that even that the government, specifically the government in this case, is also on board with CNN and these other outlets. And these statistics came out of 2017. So here we go. We have another instance where this supposedly pro-freedom administration, this supposedly countercultural administration seems to be playing right into the hands of the so-called deep state.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
Seems to be supporting the same things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm.
I mean,
I knew that they were. I knew this was the case, but just the fact that people still believe this is just. Fuck.
Well, we do know for a long time.
You know, and then you got instances of the Parkland shooting where I can't say it because Filthy Heretic will get a strike on his channel if I say the phrase, because that's a bad
phrase.
That's a bad boy phrase on YouTube.
It's a hate phrase. You can't say the words you can't say catastrophe performer, however.
Yeah, we'll call them catastrophe performers, or
hold on, didn't because we said PRK land, doesn't that mean they're tracking us already?
Yeah,
we can call them live action role players.
Yeah, that's a good one. We can't use the actual phrase because YouTube will BTFO the stream if we do. So we'll just call them live action role players. But anyway, we have clear instances where, like in the Parkland shooting, where there were a couple live action role players who were promoted by the media in order to try and basically emotionally berate people into supporting gun control. And then you have this weird stuff all around that incident where there was a stretcher being pulled out of the van where the shooter was supposedly on the stretcher being taken into the hospital, and
the stretcher was empty.
On the camera, there was nobody on the stretcher. You just have weird stuff like that, and then all of a sudden,
Mr. Hogg
everybody who talks about
transparent spot coming out of his ear.
Everybody who talks about all this weird stuff just starts getting censored. They start getting their accounts taken down if you merely say the phrase.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you got weird stuff like that all around it. You just can't tell me that this was a legitimate incident.
We can't say Mr. Hogg's real name, so I'll just refer to him as Daniel Bohr, where Daniel Bohr has 3 different stories for where he was during the shooting, including one instance where he was hiding in a closet 5 hours before the shooting starts. From the shooting. And my personal favorite is Michael Bloomberg's group, Every Town for Gun Safety, posting an article condemning the Parkland shooting an hour and a half before the Parkland shooting began.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that I'm kind of surprised. Yeah, I actually have that still on my Minds account. I have a video of the XML spread map for Every Town's website, which is it's owned by Moms for Gun Control or whatever that organization's called, and they are a subsidiary of Bloomberg.
Well, it's very simple. Like, these people want to ban guns for 2 reasons. A, they have the money to afford the people who can afford the license for private security, so they don't care about us normies who can't afford that. And 2, they realize that if we have guns, we have power. Without guns, we're defenseless.
People are going to be very confused about why Amino notifications are showing up on my desktop.
Don't tell me you're sponsored too.
No, not yet. But free advertising, yay!
Yay!
This will probably get the video flagged.
But I mean, really, what is there to say at this point about fake gun control statistics? Because, I mean, the last couple years, there have been several instances exposed of fake gun control statistics. That Vice propaganda ad got exposed. Speaking of which, they put out something recently about 3D printed guns and Bitcoin, and Blue sent me this last night, actually. He sent me this video that his IT professor showed in class. And his IT professor said that you could trace Bitcoin easily. And then you play the video, and the so-called cybersecurity expert was like, yeah, if you have their wallet ID, he was being so smug about it. If you have their wallet ID, if you have the amount that they traded at the exact time that they traded it, then you could check on the blockchain and see that that transaction occurred. So in other words, you can't trace those transactions back. Because the only way, literally the only way you could have that information is if the person who traded in that transaction told you that they did.
Yep.
So that's the propaganda Vice is putting out now. Is they're going anti-crypto, trying to basically shill for the state.
And the only way that they can, so by trying to prove that you can trace Bitcoin, they basically prove that you can't trace Bitcoin.
Yeah. I think I should make a video on that, actually, because, yeah, I saw that. The first time I saw that, I was laughing for like a solid 5 minutes.
What the hell?
Yeah, the guy, he's so smug about it, too. He's like, yeah, it's trivially easy to trace these Bitcoin transactions. And then the journalist asks him, so wait, you need the wallet ID and stuff? He's like, yeah, you need the wallet ID. You need this information in order to see this.
Oh, they just played themselves.
Anyway, speaking of tracking, there's not much more we can say on the school shooting topic. And now there's something about Google tracking 70% of retail purchases thanks to a secret deal with MasterCard.
And mind you,
yeah, that's something that got uncovered recently, but apparently back in like 2014 or 2015, MasterCard and Google created a deal where Google would be able to see transactions done with MasterCard, and consequently 70% of all purchases recorded on the internet since then have Google knows about. And what's concerning about that is, of course, all the ties between Google, the documented ties between Google and the CIA, and how they're being subsidized by the government. So when we say Google knows your information, that essentially is interchangeable with the government knows your information, what you've bought and stuff like that.
Yeah, just so basically, don't buy the blueprints from DefCAD.
If you're using MasterCard, only buy things like blueprints from DefCAD if you're going to buy it with cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
pretty much. Also, crap, I forgot what I was going to say.
Are we surprised Google's doing this, though? Come on. Really?
Oh, right. No. Yeah, I remember something about Google. I remember as part of the, I forgot what the circumstances were, but I read an article where Google was doing a deal with the government where they were going to weaponize AI. It was called Maven. The deal was supposed to give Google billions of dollars, and the only reason it didn't go on is because there was a mass employee revolt against it.
Jeez. Yeah, the thing with Google is, like, every time they open up a new location, every time they open up a new not headquarters, but place where they employ engineers out of, the government will give them $3 million in subsidies just to open up there.
Oh, must be nice. I wish I could get only $3 million. I wouldn't be complaining.
I was just thinking that Apple opened a data center in 2017 in Minnesota, I believe, and they got a $320 million tax exemption.
It's not the same
also,
thing.
To answer your question,
not the same thing as a subsidy, but it is basically a competitive advantage.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, basically the difference between a tax exemption and a subsidy when it comes to how companies function is that with tax exemptions, assuming that they're not also getting subsidies, is they still have the marginal utility as if they were to obtain profit, as if they were obtaining profit. It's just that it's still a very anti-competitive market, because these other companies that try to compete with them get taxed at higher rates.
Pretty much.
A lot of people misunderstand that. And with direct subsidies, these companies don't have any marginal utility because they didn't earn any of the money that they're spending.
Yeah, they just get cash handed to them pretty much with the subsidy.
Like, you look at how much of Google stuff, especially YouTube, is just red year after red year after red year. It's just loss, 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 loss.
And that's another thing.
How they can possibly keep the site open?
Yeah,
buy some puts on Google.
That's another thing. Did you guys see the video that Jim Jesus made recently about that?
No.
One moment, I'll be right back.
I don't know what that dude's deal is, but yeah, he made a video, basically a response to my arguments regarding the Internet Bill of Rights. And what he said was that, oh, these companies are making profits. They're too big to fail. He didn't really say that. Fucking don't take that out of context and claim I'm straw manning him. He was just being ridiculously statist and essentially denying reality, denying even on Google, you can't really miss that. It's like the first page of Google search results, or any search result for that matter. If you look up Facebook, Twitter, any of these companies, they are just hemorrhaging profit.
Yeah, just to be clear here, the only person that we're aware of who said that these companies are too big to fail is Styx Hexenhammer.
Well, they're too big to fail as long as we have a state. The state will keep subsidizing them.
As long as they're being
honestly, they're already failing.
Yeah, and that's the hilarious part. Even with the subsidies, they're losing millions of dollars annually, hundreds of millions of dollars annually.
And the alternative sites, such as Minds, BitChute, and Gab, are growing. Except Gab. The Gab is terrible.
Yeah, just imagine if the state disappeared. We wouldn't have to deal with Google anymore. They'd be bye-bye.
Oh, I think they'd be gone in a month. I think everyone who was competent in Google left a long time ago.
What I think would happen to Google is a change in management. Either that or liquidation.
Yeah, they'd go out of business, or they would
basically
their management and actually become a competitive company. But I think that with how they're behaving right now, I think they'd have a hard time in the market. I think people just wouldn't trust them anymore. They'd have lost so much market trust that I think no matter what, they'd go out of business.
I think they'd go out of business very quickly.
You really think so? Because so many people still use Google and not alternate sources, even though the state still subsidizes them. You think that's going to change quickly? I think it might be a slower process.
Oh,
if you're talking about for search, I think that alternative stuff is growing very fast. Like, say, DuckDuckGo, which you have absolutely no excuse not to use. That's really starting to grow and make money.
I prefer Brave.
If you're talking about stuff like, say, YouTube, BitChute is getting videos and getting a lot of users, even if it has the continual problem of being immediately dominated by right-leaning channels.
Well, I mean, that's not a problem. That's just what happens. That's just what happens when you don't have censorship.
Yeah.
Socialist and progressive ideals can't survive without essentially being propped up.
There are socialist and progressive ideals on there, just not the ones that they like.
Yeah, they're not very popular, and that's what happens essentially when you're left, when you have a platform essentially where ideas are left to survive on their merits rather than being propped up. Like, I love it also when the Young Turks try and claim that they're countercultural, and then there's pictures of Cenk Uygur shaking hands with Susan Wojcicki.
My personal favorite is I think the reason that Google would fall is simply because there's all sorts of deals and subsidies that neither of us are probably aware of. I told you before about the
basically
weaponizing
pillars
AI.
of salt and sand.
Pretty much. I told you before about the weaponizing AI deal that Google's doing with the government that was gonna give them billions of dollars. I can guarantee you, without question, that there are all sorts of deals, buys, projects they're doing in partnership with the government that are probably making them a killing right now.
Yeah.
And to say nothing of, you have stuff like Amazon with their $600 million servers for the CIA. I mean, once the government disappears, all that money, they'll probably still have the money because the payment's already been made, but they won't be able to get that anymore, which means they'll have to act in ways that their customers want them to. But would Susan allow this? Oh no.
Nope.
YouTube should have died a long time ago. And if I recall correctly, when Twitter went public,
I don't think it should have died a long time ago. I think it shouldn't have. Been taken over by Google a long time ago. Like
Yeah,
that's the beginning of the end.
pretty much.
Yeah,
Oh,
YouTube
Atomic's
used to be
here.
a fun platform.
There you are. Goodness
Atomic's
me, I
here.
sent that to you like 30
David
minutes
Hogg is a
ago.
watered down version of Jimmy Neutron. Changed my mind.
Say that again.
David Hogg is a watered down version of Jimmy Neutron.
Wait. Who's David
What?
Hogg? We're talking about
Daniel Bohr.
Yeah,
Daniel
no one said anything about Daniel Bohr, David Hogg.
Oh, I know. I was just saying that. As
We
an
don't know
intro.
we don't know what a David Hogg is.
Yeah, who's that?
By the way, are you into live action role playing?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Daniel Bohr, the live action role player. That's who we were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, and back to those anti-gunners. If you don't like guns and you don't believe in guns, please tell me where your home is, because it'll make it that much easier for me to rob you. Thank you.
Well, I mean, the media's already doing
Spoken
this.
like a true commie.
If I recall correctly, there was actually a thing in Connecticut where a newspaper published the addresses, or did like a heat map of all the homes where
What?
guns were present.
Oh, this is nice to know. Now I
Yeah,
know which homes not to go to.
yeah, exactly. Like, thanks for telling us which homes are armed, assholes. However, thanks to the Cody Wilson 3D printing, now the only reason that they'll know is if you tell them.
Or if you buy them from a store, that'd be stupid of you, though.
Like, why
Yeah, I
would you
mean,
do that?
if you bought off the black market, they still don't know.
There it is.
And have
Support
you
your
seen
local black market?
Have you seen those new guns called Shuddy AP9s?
No.
They're basically they're not a fully 3D printed gun. They're a hybrid of gun 3D printed parts, but yeah, they're also untraceable. And they're basically just an upgraded model of the Liberator, and they're pretty awesome.
Nice.
Does it shoot more than once? Like,
Yeah,
no,
they're I think you could just make them however you want to make them. They're about the size of a Tech 9, and that's kind of what they look like as well.
I kind of just want to make a
Tech 9
bolter.
or Tech 9?
Tech 9, like the handgun.
Huh.
I just want to make a bolter for Warhammer 40k. The fanboy in me would just giggle at that.
A
Firing
Boltok, yeah.
Just get a
Bolter?
75.
Is that what? I forget what it's called all the time.
It's the bolter, and
Bolter.
sometimes known as the bolt gun. Basically,
Bolt
a
gun.
75 caliber thing that explodes. So it's like a semi-automatic grenade launcher.
Burn in holy fire!
Purge the other heretics.
3D printed grenade launchers.
Ah, my internet.
With
I
3D
mean-
printed grenades.
I mean, you can
I'll
make
be right
homemade
back.
Shrapnel is
bullets.
plastic.
I'll be right back.
You can
It's
make
like a weed eater.
yeah, you can make a 3D printed bullets, I would imagine, soon. Or you can just make homemade bullets. You don't need 3D printing at all.
Well, how do you make 3D printed bullets? I mean, you at some point you need gunpowder.
Yeah, pretty much. However, don't be surprised if well, I don't think gunpowder is that hard to get actually.
No, it's not, but that's the problem with 3D. You need gunpowder, which means somewhere along the line you're going to need to get that. Which that's the thing. I'm not too concerned about that because pretty soon here we will actually be probably trading for stuff like that using Bitcoin. It'll be a more especially since 3D guns are they're picking up and they're taking off. There's going to be a market for that with cryptocurrency.
There's going to be a market for everything. I don't have any personal experience, unfortunately, but my understanding is that you can get anything off the black market.
Oh yeah, you can.
So just imagine, just like
you have enough, you can.
Yeah, but everything's like more expensive, sadly.
Yeah, it's more expensive, but if you have enough, you can get anything. If it exists, you can get it.
Yeah.
If you don't have another option, though, you're going to use the black market. Like, some people get banned for peaceful protests when they don't even use any violence because they piss the government off. And the government's like, I'm going to take your gun rights from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and go around you and cut off your finances.
And you won't even know that we're doing it.
We're going to cut off your finances and we're going to make ourselves financially independent from you and you won't know about it.
As far as the government's concerned, our GDP will be 0 if we have our way. And everything just got quiet all of a sudden. This is
Yeah.
terrifying.
I'm back.
Yes, Ryan Coin. 3D printed nukes. I see no problems with this.
So, our last
correct-
topic...
Oh.
Our last topic
Oh
was
boy,
gonna
here's
be,
where we shit on the neocons.
our last topic was going to be the Nike meme.
Oh.
So, for those who don't know, what's happened is that Colin Kaepernick has gotten an endorsement deal from Nike, who is doing some new thing as part of their 30th anniversary of the Just Do It campaign. Just Do It, probably referring to the fact that liberals should absolutely be crapping all over themselves, trying to point out how Nike has its shoes assembled by child labor. But because they support and are endorsing Colin Kaepernick, this might be their way of making nice with the liberals.
So they released this campaign where it shows a picture of Colin Kaepernick and it has text that reads hilariously, "Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything."
Guess who sacrificed everything?
And
No.
I've
Not Colin Kaepernick.
And yeah, it's extremely easy to meme this. That's why it's notable, and that's why I feel like talking about it. I even made my own version of it. I took that picture and I put it over Adolf Hitler. I've seen
that would
memes
happen.
that have been all over my
My
timeline.
favorite one is
Yeah,
the Sky King, though.
I've seen people putting it over Osama bin Laden and Elliot Rodger. Really, it's been going around. It's hilarious.
Make sure you post a link to the picture in the chat so everybody can see it.
Yeah, I'll make sure to do that.
Kaepernick's such a shitty guy. Doesn't love America because it's an oppressive government. Wears an oppressive government leader on his shirt.
I don't think Che was a leader per se. I think he was a. I don't think you were supposed to send it to me through Discord.
Okay.
I mean, like in the stream chat. But yeah,
I am not on the stream right now. I'll have to get to it.
Anyways, while that's going on,
fucking
maybe
hell.
we should talk about our
Goddamn
actual final topic.
Fucking YouTube signed me out again. It does this annoying thing where I don't know why, but yeah, it'll sign me out, and then for like an hour or so, it'll say every time I try and sign back in, it'll say there was an issue signing you into YouTube. Troubleshoot here, and nothing I do seems to make it so I can sign back in. Just seems to
I think
happen
they-
organically.
We don't like what you're saying,
Stop
so
you
we're
from
logging
making
you out.
content.
pretty much.
We don't
Also-
like what you're saying, so go bye.
Yeah, also there's one last thing I want to say about the Nike topic before we move on to the actual final topic, and that is that ever since like this was done, Nike's stock value has just plummeted. I don't quote me on this, but I think they lost like 2 to 3% today.
This makes me happy.
Yeah,
And
which for a company the size of Nike is just freaking insane.
that's millions. That's millions. And then you have there's people all over the internet who are posting videos of their burning their Nike products.
I just, but when it comes down to like the symbolism behind it, whether it's Kaepernick or the national anthem, I just honestly, I don't care. Like that's the other thing. Yeah, I like that. You know, people are taking it out with Nike. If they don't like it, then they definitely should be able to exercise not liking company. But yeah.
Yeah, but it's sad it took this for people not to like Nike, not the sweatshops or anything else. It was this just thing that became a
Yeah,
meme that made
sweatshop
people not
labor
like it.
is definitely yeah, it's not really a good thing, but that's not the problem of Nike. That's the problem of those third world governments making their markets basically so terrible that only big corporations like Nike could walk in there and create working conditions so terrible like that.
I mean,
Although, to be fair, it is a better deal than other jobs around.
The alternative is that they wade through water buffalo dung in a rice paddy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
people will, go and complain about the sweatshops when I think you've pointed this out. There's many figures showing that sweatshop labor, even if we consider it bad, is not people there don't consider it bad, and it actually helps them.
That's exactly my point. That's essentially the best job a lot of them can get, and the reason it's the best job a lot of them can get is because their governments are screwing up their market so badly.
Yep.
Yeah, and our governments
They're remaining undeveloped.
And our governments make it so it's better for them to go over there and build a sweatshop than do something here.
pretty much.
I love how they suddenly become undeveloped nations when oil becomes involved.
Interesting.
Just, it's just kind of funny.
Well, every country that has oil
Totally
has
a
to become
coincidence.
democracy. Every country that
Well, it's
has
a
oil
good
has
thing
to
you
become a
mentioned
democracy.
oil, because oil has everything to do with our final topic.
Shh, don't say oil, otherwise the U.S. will come in here.
Did
and
I hear
bomb the
oil? That shit is
Did I hear
mine!
oil?
That shit is mine!
Give me all the oil.
Stop saying that
Oh.
word. We're going to get served some democracy if we say it too much.
Oh.
Too late. You've been served some democracy. You must vote for giant turd or you must vote for a giant douche or turd sandwich.
I was just watching that episode.
What the hell is showing up on my screen? Okay, something weird's going on.
Yep, they said oil too many times.
Oh, that's probably what did it.
Oh.
They're coming to give you democracy, filthy.
No.
No!
But democracy is good because your people have power.
The people have the choice.
People have power.
Ugh.
I love how that textbook tried to say that there was one, textbook that said that democracy values the individual.
It values the individual so much so that the majority gets to impose their will on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's actually jump onto our final topic for real this time.
Yes. United Kingdom says Syrian terrorists can't possibly be planning chemical weapons, and and the reason why they say that is because Russia.
So what's going on is that Russia is very concerned that since the Syrian rebels are basically holed up in one final stronghold, and the Syrian government, that is Bashar al-Assad's government, is on the verge of victory, that the Syrian rebels will do another false flag chemical attack, and in so doing, trigger the U.S. into basically becoming their air force, which will basically what'll happen is that the Syrian rebels will deploy gas they'll blame the Syrian government for it, and without doing any fact-checking whatsoever, the U.S. government will do airstrikes against the Syrian government, even though they were framed.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Hasn't this already happened once?
Yes. It happened in
That
April.
was.
It happened in April 2016 and April 2017. Except with April 2017, that no gas was deployed whatsoever. All that happened is a bunch of guys said gas, 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 ushered some children into a hospital, managed to panic the doctors enough to bring out hoses to start hosing the children down. The people who were ushering them in, the people who were ushering them in got cameras rolling to get this like really shocking footage of children being hosed down, and then they just left. And none of them were entirely sure.
We have a couple of videos going over how fake that is, but yeah, essentially there's nothing that is credible about it. The only source which was claiming on the ground that it was the Syrian government were the white helmets, which are a documented, admitted example. They're a propaganda construct, as MI5 calls them, and they were created by the British government and the CIA in order to instigate
And they have
conflicts in the
connections
Middle
with
East.
the rebels.
Yeah, they also have documented ties with the rebels. But yeah, then we have independent forensic examinations from different countries, ranging from Denmark to Switzerland. I think those are the two. There might be some more that I haven't heard of, but yeah, there are all these forensic labs coming forward saying that Syria couldn't have done it, and so it's actually gotten to the point where even the mainstream media at this point now only says that the Syrian government's only allegedly responsible. But yeah,
This can be deduced very easily.
They found out that it's true. They have proof that it's true now, and their proof is that Russia said that it isn't. So that must mean that it is.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you have the U.S. Waving their own sabers, saying that, if Assad ever tries this again, there will be hell to pay. There will be missiles and airstrikes, and we're gonna signal to our friends, our proxies in the Syrian rebels and Al Qaeda and ISIS that all they have to do is frame Assad for something, and we'll do it without any questions asked whatsoever.
So here's my thoughts on that.
They want that oil.
They want that oil.
So it's coming towards a midterm, right?
Yeah.
So we go into a conflict or a war, it'll keep those who are already in power, because during a war, people usually do not switch seats. So I think that there's going to be a quote-unquote attack to secure people's authority and power in Congress right now.
Oh, fuck. You think that they're actually going to do it, like, pretty soon here?
I give it a couple months.
Yeah, I was actually talking to someone in real life a few days ago. Yes, I know people in real life. And they asked, like, why do I care about this? And my reply was that this is how World War III starts. What's going to end up happening is that if you look at the strikes that were done from April 2016 to April 2017, the later strikes were a lot more severe. And what I can imagine happening is that the U.S. attacks, then Russia retaliates, and then the U.S. attacks, and it's just a continuing set of escalations until boom, total war. And I think this is what the deep state wants.
A lot of people like to claim that, Russia interfered with our democracy, now they must die. Well, even if that was true, which it is not, we have more to lose retaliating than we do letting them trample all over us. Which, by the way, if they did fuck with the elections, the best course of action is to actually make the voting stations and voting process secure, which, they actually didn't. They did not fuck with elections.
Gee, it's almost as if we should have voting ID laws. Huh, weird.
As well as not using digital.
Or how about we just don't vote?
Yeah, how about we just
boom!
I'm on that one.
Or we could get rid of the welfare state.
Why not both?
Mm-hmm.
Why not just get rid of the
why
state?
don't we get rid of the entire state?
Immigrants' problems, isn't it?
Is there, out of curiosity, is there anyone here who is opposed to universal non-suffrage?
No one raises their hands.
Nobody. Okay, so it's official. Everybody here supports universal non-suffrage.
But I
Nobody-
don't
Means
want
everybody
people to
here is
suffer.
the worst form of bigot. They're individualists.
I want
Yeah.
everyone to suffer equally.
I want everybody to. Well, if you want everyone to suffer equally, then you support democracy.
I want everybody to freely
Well, they
associate.
don't suffer
equally.
equally. The majority suffers a little bit, but the minority suffers the most.
No,
Pretty much.
democracy
And for
is
the
where the
record,
state
to,
doesn't suffer and the citizens suffer.
Okay, well,
That's what.
for the record, to any viewers who might be watching, Filthy, do you want to explain the oil situation and how it relates to the U.S. dollar, which is why we're so interested in the Syria conflict?
So basically, what's going down is that Syria and the United States are disputing on who gets to build an oil pipeline going through Syria. It's not oil; it's natural gas. So it's a natural gas pipeline going from Turkey.
Well, no, it's not. It's not a dispute. There is one already. It starts in Iran, it goes through Iraq, and it comes out in Syria. And the reason it's such a big deal to the U.S. is because it's the largest export point of oil in the entire world, and it comes out in Damascus.
And the
Sounds like
disputes-
Syria needs some democracy.
Oh yeah, like they're going to be full
Democracy.
Democracy.
Anyone in need of some liberation?
Freedom, whether you want it or not.
Yeah. I say the whole world must learn of our peaceful ways. By force.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole point of the Syria conflict is that, well, the Russosphere, which is to say Russia, China, Iran, they're starting to trade in cryptocurrency and the petro yuan, which devalues the petrodollar, which is the primary driving force behind U.S. foreign policy and has been for a very long time. It's why we went to war in Iraq.
It's why as the dollar exists.
It's also why we overthrew Gaddafi in Libya in 2011. So the fact of the matter is that if Russia can get the pipeline that's already been built and has been signed off by Assad, then they have serious power in getting oil into Europe that doesn't need to be done through OPEC or the petrodollar. And that can't fly.
I'm telling you now, I'm calling it now. There's going to be some live action role play in Syria that'll get the U.S. involved.
For sure.
Calling it now.
Hey, I think
Yeah, we'll be
Anyways,
bringing.
on the topic of Russia, you know why they're so hostile
that's-
to us.
that's
I've
the
said
problem.
something like this in the last stream, but
Imagine.
imagine if Russia had invaded Canada and installed a national socialist government there, and you have pretty much an accurate representation of what the United States did to Ukraine.
Well, the problem, the problem is that since China is the entity which created the yuan, we can't just go in there and bring democracy to China because, oh shit, China is a world superpower and they're strong allies with Russia, which would be right on our ass if we tried that.
Yep.
So basically, we have to. The problem with Syria is
Suddenly there are tariffs against
God
China
damn it.
being put in place. I wonder what that's about.
Okay, but anyway, Russia and China are also strong allies with Syria, and Syria is not on very good terms with us. Syria happens to be one of the countries which also is on board with countries like Russia, China, Hungary, and several others around the world which want a different currency other than the US dollar to dominate the oil market. And openly state that. So yeah, that's why we're in there, because the U.S. government essentially knows that we've got to try and stop China as much as we possibly can. We got to try and keep the petro-yuan from taking off, and the way to do that is to halt the exporting of oil or to try and take it over, which is why we're doing all these. We're trying to get militarily involved in Syria, because you'll also notice that all these attacks, they happen in Damascus or the recent one was in Duma, which is only like a 20-minute drive away from Damascus. They all happen around that general area, and they happen around that general area because they're trying to stop the production of oil or trying to occupy it with our military forces.
Also, anyone who still thinks that Trump is he's a Russian puppet is a fucking moron and should be discarded immediately, considering how hostile we are towards not only them, but their allies. But speaking of being hostile towards them, if you actually look at the policies, the Russian policies that are put in place, we're more hostile to Moscow than we were in the Cold War. Well, no, since the fall of the Soviet Union. Like, isn't that amazing? That's the kind of Russian puppet we have.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're constantly talking shit about them, and we're essentially trying to instigate a military conflict with them. By what we're trying to do, I think, is we're trying to start a conflict with them.
Very Russian body of you, SO.
Yeah, we're trying to justify it by saying, "Oh, look, they hacked our elections. Now we got to go over there, and we got to take them out." I think that's exactly what we'll end up doing. I bet you anything.
That is exactly what is happening with all this scare. Like, you remember the Helsinki summit, and everyone was just going fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. That's what I think the U.S. is honestly trying to do with the whole Russia collusion narrative. We're trying to have a justification so that we can attack Russia, and then once we attack Russia and we get all the other countries in the world on our side, we can also attack China, since China and Russia are basically allies with one another, strong allies with one another. They're like
they're mutually symbiotic.
That's what. Yes, yeah. That's what we're trying to do by doing this. We're trying to get the rest of the world on our side so that we can overpower both of them.
There's also one other factor, and that is our continuously crumbling United States economy, especially the crumbling petrodollar. And that if we go to war with Russia, then the U.S. government has a complete justification that it can present to its population. It's be like, look, see, we're at war, so the economy's gotta suck. So you gotta do your part. We gotta make sacrifices. We gotta raise your taxes to 102% to be able to fight those darn Russians.
Told me to. This is for your own good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's for freedom around the world. Don't you love freedom?
And make no mistake, if there is going to be a World War III between the U.S. and Russia, it's going to be because of the petrodollar. The United States is definitely going to be in the wrong in this coming war.
Which, by the way, historically 100% of all fiat currencies have failed, and they generally fail around the time some war took place within that country. So,
yeah, those who fail to study history are doomed to repeat it, and those who study history are doomed to watch helplessly while others repeat it.
Every conflict after World War I, well, almost every conflict after World War I is about maintaining order and currency. That's pretty much it.
And World War I was a total disaster that never should have happened.
World War I shouldn't have happened.
Oh yeah.
That is like that to me is like, that's where we went wrong. That's where we went from liberalism with crony capitalism to today. It's what sowed the seeds.
Yeah, well, we didn't even get into that war under proper pretenses. We got into that war based on a false flag.
Yeah,
the exact same situation.
And yeah, that's the thing. Everybody who called that out was labeled a conspiracy theorist until just recently, where I can't remember the name of the ship right now.
Lusitania?
Yeah, the Lusitania. Everybody said that everybody said that
it shouldn't have.
Dude, stop.
Conspiracy theorist.
Everybody was labeled a conspiracy theorist who pointed out that the Lusitania was actually carrying bombs and stuff inside of the cargo hold, and we deliberately went into German waters. But then there were documents proving that the U.S. and was aware of that, and that the company which owned the Lusitania was putting advertisements in newspapers warning people not to go on the ship because it was going into German territory. And so they knew about it. Everybody knew about it. And then divers went to go into the wreck in like 2013 and found, sure enough, bombs inside of it. So it's essentially a documented, established fact that that was a false flag.
And don't even get me
that's
started
what started
on
World War I.
Don't even get me started on the Maine, like fucking proto-neocons.
Well, at the time, the neocons were probably called the Fabian Socialists. But anyways,
No, I think they were called progressives back in that day.
Probably, or just Trotskyist. Anyways,
Yeah.
Anyways, that's all the time we have. So everybody, shill your stuff now.
What?
Shill.
Oh.
Bunny, you can go first.
All right, everyone. I'm Anarcho Bunny. I'm going to be doing YouTube videos again, probably later this month, because I'll have my computer fixed and everything else. So, yay for that.
Yay. Eso?
Hey, I'm Esoteric Kennedy. Sorry if I sounded a little slow this stream. You know when you eat really greasy food and then you're slow? Yeah, that's basically what happened.
Was it good?
Yeah, but it kind of fucked up the stream.
Oh, I see. All right, Hot Blue?
Hello, I'm Hot Blue. I posted a video recently.
All right.